Hi, my name is Dawn Marmorstein. I'm the owner of Los Angeles Surrogacy Center. And as most of you know who follow my blog, Surrobaby4, which has had almost 1,900 hits, which is absolutely amazing, and I thank all of you for read it. I'm currently about 13 weeks pregnant with my first gestational surrogacy. So I had been a surrogate mom previously 3 times, but it was a traditional surrogate mom. I carried my last traditional surrogacy in 2010. And in 2011, after the birth of my 4th child, I opted to have my tubes tied, so my traditional surrogacy days are now over. This is baby number 2 for the recipients. I've known them for a while. I carried for their friends a couple years ago, and they had a baby with our agency earlier this year. Our cycle was a little bit rough. On some surrogate moms breeze through cycle and are totally cool with all the meds. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of them. We started with birth control, which I took for 2 months, and on like day 3 of birth control, I started bleeding, and I literally bled for like 2 months. And then we added an oral estrogen and baby aspirin that made me bleed even more. And then we got rid of the baby aspirin, and I was still bleeding, so I had a lot of like little hiccups along the way. The bleeding actually delayed our transfer about 10 days while the doctors made the switch from the oral med to the injectable one. So after the determination was made that the oral meds weren't working, we moved. I have a serious phobia of injecting myself with things, so that's probably one of the main reasons why I wasn't previously ever a gestational surrogate, because I knew that eventually I'd have to bend my ass over the counter and give myself that shot. And it took me about 30 minutes to do it. I had a ginormous meltdown. It was absolutely embarrassing and probably very YouTube worthy, and eventually I got up enough courage to allow my partner Todd to inject me with the estrogen. So after a week of being on the injectable estrogen, we had another ultrasound, and it was determined that the lining was growing properly. So we were able to move on to progesterone. So the new regimen was I took progesterone every single day, and then I took the injectable estrogen every 3rd day. So on the 3rd day, we'd get 2 shots, 1 in each butt cheek. We had our transfer on June 25th. We transferred 3 blastocyst embryos, which are embryos that have been grown 5 days. The rule of thumb with embryos is usually 2, but the recipient parents had had 2 previous transfers with this set of embryos that hadn't created a pregnancy in their previous surrogate mom, so the doctor thought that maybe putting 3 in would yield a pregnancy for them. Though I would prefer not to carry a twin or triplet pregnancy, I did agree to allow them to transfer the 3 embryos, knowing that they had had failed attempts previously. The transfer itself was incredibly easy. They put the embryos into a catheter, and they insert them into your uterus, guided by ultrasound. It was a very quick and easy procedure. The recipients watched via Skype because they were unable to be there. And if I had to explain it to somebody who's never done it, it's like that moment like after sex where you're just kind of laying around and not doing anything, without all the fun before. So after the transfer procedure was over, I laid there for about 20 minutes, and then I got dressed and headed home, where I was on bed rest for 2 full days. The 2-week wait was probably the longest 2 weeks ever. It felt like forever. And I bought a couple of home pregnancy tests, which most fertility doctors do not recommend because they often yield false negatives or positives if you take HCG trigger. And we actually ended up getting a positive home pregnancy test on day 7. And I emailed the clinic telling them that our test was positive. And they said, well, maybe, but we need the HCG test. So on Monday, make sure you have your blood test. So we went right at 8:30 to have the blood test when they opened on that Monday. And we had to wait from about 9 o'clock till about 1:30 when the results came back. And it was probably the longest thing ever. It felt like it took absolutely forever to get those results, which fortunately were positive. I had a very high starting number at 108. So I was so happy that the beta numbers were high enough that we had a good, strong pregnancy. And then we had to wait 2 weeks to find out whether or not it was 1 baby or 2. And after a lot of scanning, the ultrasound revealed that there was just 1 baby growing inside. So in March, the recipients will be welcoming their 2nd child, which I'm very excited for them.